My name is Nathaniel Wood. I am a UFC featherweight fighter and I have been training in mixed martial arts for 15 years now. My whole life, my dad's been doing martial arts himself, so he always had taught me, how to punch, how to kick. We've always had punch bags in our house. Yeah, having my dad, and my dad's my head coach now, so having him involved in my life is a blessing. There's a lot of coaches out there which may not have fighters' best interests at heart, and who better to have in my corner than my dad, the man that would die for me, if you like. He's my dad, so at the end of the day, I've got the person that I trust with my life behind me, when I step into the octagon.
My role in Nathaniel's camp now is to just try and oversee that he isn't pushing too hard, because he does have a tendency to work too hard. Can make sure he keeps away from all of the injuries, because they're starting to take a toll as we're all getting older. And maybe a little buffer between him and other coaches. Not most of the time now, but there is a bit where we all have a conflict can take place, and maybe I can smooth that out a little bit better. And that's basically it. I'm here to support him on his journey.
So if I'm honest, the way I got into martial arts was I just left school and I was doing carpentry and I hated it. I remember saying to my dad, this isn't for me, I do not want to be spending the rest of my life doing this. I couldn't imagine myself in an office, I can't sit still for more than 5 minutes, and my dad said to me, what do you want to do with your life? And I said, I want to be an athlete. That was my I didn't have any set sport. I just said, I want to be an athlete. And I thought the only real sport that you can kind of maybe control your destiny yourself is a one-on-one sport. And at the time, I was a big fan of the UFC, which was quite new at the time. It's not like football that's been around for years and years. And it was a sport that I thought, if I train hard and I put the work in, I'll reap the results. And yeah, I just was like a duck to water. I went along with my dad, who was training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at the time, and I loved every minute of it. I love the competition, I love the sport, athlete, side of things, and for me, just being an athlete, that was my dream job, really, and I've loved every minute since.
Nathaniel! He's almost out. Now there's the tap. Beautiful. So Nathaniel Wood gets the late finish with less than a minute to go. Sit that hip down. And one on tap. Nathaniel Wood, a winner in his UFC debut tonight. There he goes. Oh, the left hook. It's a left hand. Looks like he's deep. Really good position here. That's the tap. Nathaniel Wood comes home to London, gets the submission win. What a beautiful performance for the prospect.
We've been 15 years now. The start of the journey was pretty much do as you're told. Then there was a lot of turbulence, and now it's come to that I let him lead. He's in charge of his journey, and I'm here to support him on that as far as I'm concerned. A coach, I try and get him to a place where he can walk into the cage and win, obviously. And as a dad, I'm supposed to take his place and protect him. And it is conflicted, and I find it harder each time he fights. At GB Top Team, Tuesdays and Thursdays are the sparring mornings. Nowadays Nathan is here on time and ready to go. So on the Tuesday we have some boxing rounds followed by kickboxing into 5-minute MMA rounds, and then on Thursday there's 5-minute MMA rounds followed by some groundwork rounds.
I do feel like I almost have a set responsibility. You know, Brad was always moaning at me, if you're late, you know, you've got to set an example, people are looking up to you. And I said to him, I don't want people to look up to me. You know, I don't need them to look up to me. And he said, that's out of your control. You're in the UFC, you're where they want to be. They're going to look at you and they're going to copy you. So if you're turning up late, they're going to turn up late. They think if Nate's doing it, I can do it. So I have tried to rein things like that in now. I do try to come in this gym and set an example.
The benefit for Nathan, especially here, is one, that he's not travelling 2 hours to get to different gyms, and two, pretty much the weight category for him is covered. We've got wrestlers, we've got strikers, we've got jiu-jitsu guys, Thai boxers, all above and below him and the same weight as him. So the whole camp can be pretty much covered for what they need.
Training for me at the moment is to stay fit, stay sharp and improve, and I'm enjoying that. You know, it's nice to kind of be able to go to the gym and actually train to get better and not just train for a fight or an opponent in my head. And I'm enjoying it. You know, it's nice to get out and let my frustrations out, and you know, it's my place of peace, if you like. It's the place where I go and meditate.
Good session today, people. 1, 2, 3, GB. Top team. Morning.
As a coach, I know how hard he trains and that he is good at what he does, but as a dad, it gets tiring when you see your son hurt. And even the winners come out broken and damaged. If I was to walk into millions and millions of pounds, the first thing I'd do is drag him out of fighting.
You know, you always have cheers when you fight. You know, obviously everyone wins, you get your hand raised, everyone cheers. That's just a normal thing. But to have a crowd erupt before the fight, you know, the day before, we're just weighing in here, you know, that was special to me, you know, seeing all the St. George's flags and waving around, and, you know, the crowd behind me, that was a very special moment.
He won his Cage Warriors title and he defended it, and I just kind of looked and said, listen, you've done really well. If you want, it's time that you can stop and make a move on to a normal life. And he just turned around and he said, you don't realise how enjoyable, how much fun it is to walk out and have people screaming and crying out your name and seeing the flags. And he said, it's amazing.
As a fighter, I want, first and foremost, to be remembered as an entertaining fighter. You know, if someone said to me, you can be UFC champion, but you're going to have to change your style and become boring, let's say, just hold on to people for dear life, and yeah, I wouldn't take it. You know, I'd rather the crowd remember me as someone that they wanted to watch. You know, when you leave the arena after watching every fight, they remember mine. You know, whether it's a win, loss or draw, they come away thinking, what an entertaining fight I put on. Me and Brad both have that same mindset. You know, at the end of the day, we want to entertain the crowd. We want to be known for being great fighters, and obviously he's retired now and he has been known as one of the best fighters to come out of England. So yeah, I think that's where we gel. You know, we both have similar mindsets on how people should fight. So I met Brad probably 10 years ago now. I definitely think that he saw almost like a mini version of him in me. You know, someone who's down to scrap, who's down to entertain. We both agree that, you know, there's fighters these days can perform just to win, but you also have the fighters that perform to put on a show.
All three judges scored this contest 29-28 for the winner by unanimous decision, Muhammad Hillman Naima.
That for me was probably one of my hardest, but it wasn't because I lost the fight. It was because I knew that I'd walked into that fight not mentally in the game. You know, on fight day, if someone had come along and said to me, "Oh, do you want to fight?" I would have said, "Nope."
Sometimes if we have a good fight camp, sometimes we're fighting through some illnesses and some injuries.
Yeah, it's been a bit of an emotional roller coaster at the moment. I know that I'm way better than Mohamed Naimov. Unfortunately, it came at one of the most important times of my life. It's your own battles that you've got to deal with. This just hit me out of nowhere. You know, I've got people that I need to fight for.
Last split. Good, last fight.
Yeah, you know, I'm training with a lot of anger inside me, and I'm hoping that I'm going to use it to become the best fighter on the planet.